so I don't have to dump it.
Okay, so these are the people that are helping me. I have my father-in-law right here. This is Dan. And then over here somewhere is my wife. That's Melissa. And they're doing some exciting stuff. They're getting ready to dump this portable toilet that my father-in-law bought into the septic tank. So pretty exciting stuff. He wants me to see so I can know how to do it. But I haven't used it, so I don't. I did use it one time because I had some bad food or something. And you don't want to have diarrhea up in the mountains. So let's see what Dan does here.
Okay, it has this thing here that can rotate and dump. You take this off and hopefully it's clean, and it is clean. You don't have to.
Why would it not be clean?
If it sloshes around, it goes up in there. It's terrible.
Don't slosh around. Am I pointing the right way? There we go.
So you get this heavy thing now, and you turn it around like so. You put this down in there, and you push this button, and it lets it breathe. Otherwise, it sits there and gurgles, and it sounds terrible. It makes a mess. But the wheelbarrow needs to be moved.
Well,
Do it with a
Melissa will
wheelbarrow.
do that because I have the important job of holding the camera.
Okay.
There goes all the poop.
So, and push the button.
I'm glad you don't have to see that on the camera. But I'm sure it smells great too. But this is one of the clean outs that goes to the septic tank. So it works out as a good place to dump. Especially since we don't have any bathrooms or anything up here.
For when my mom brings her camper.
He's talking about my mom. I'm supposed to say that, I think. My mom has a camper. She brought it up here last fall, and we had it up here all winter when we were doing some digging and some other stuff. But winter's pretty harsh, so you can't do too much here. We wanted to get all this stuff done before, not dump poop, but we wanted to get all this construction or have the house dried in before winter, and we were supposed to get delivery in like April. Well, that was the original plan, because I gave him my plans that I drew up and stuff for the house and everything. And in December of last year, and expected they would get some drawings and start production and have it done in April. And it turned out that I'm still waiting on a few pieces. So I got the garage behind me, the walls and roof are not done yet. And there's a couple of pedestals right in the front here. There's a porch, and there's a like pedestal style support, and then on the back of the house there's two of those on the back deck, under the back deck, that hold the roof down and also hold up the porch, or the deck. So yeah, I'm still waiting, and they're supposed to be done this week for delivery next week. Maybe I got that wrong. I don't know. Anyway, so this is where we're staying. There's our campground right in the middle of the construction zone. So yep, I've decided to take a month off of work, except for I'm going back one day a week pretty much, so that I can get caught up on a couple things. And then over here I'll show you some of this foam I got. This is mostly 3 1/4 to 3 7/8 inch thick roofing foam. It's polyiso cyrenate. I don't know if I said that right, but it's really, really good. It's like the best rigid foam insulation you can get. Other than this is not really intended for what I'm using it for. This is intended for roofs. It's got this fiberglass coating on it, and that makes you really itchy. But also, it's not really intended for what I'm using it for, which is to insulate the crawl space. So our plan is to like super insulate this house. It's got inside the concrete. You have I have an air gap, and then I have 2 inches of EPS foam, and then about 4 inches of this polyiso cyrenate. So I don't know what the total R value is there, somewhere around probably 35 or something. And then I'm also going to insulate the ground so that the cold can't come in from the ground. And then in the walls, they're all staggered studs. So if you don't know what that means, it's you got one stud here, and the next stud, instead of being just kind of along the way, you kind of go in and out from each other, so that there's no stud that goes through the whole wall. So that sounded like a great idea, and then I realized when I was doing the design that, you know, for windows and things like that, you need something to attach to on the outside and on the inside. So what I'm using is a 2x6 sill plate. The wall's 5.5 inches wide, and I'm using 2x4 staggered in there, so it's going to leave a 2-inch gap on either side, and they're at 24-inch spacing on the outside and 24 on the inside, so it actually ends up being 12-inch spacing on the studs. So it's a few more studs than you'd normally have, but I think it's going to be worth it because there's no thermal bridging through the wall other than right next to the windows. I'm still working on figuring out which windows are the best to get with this guy that's helping me out with some of this kind of stuff to make sure I get all this right. And I don't know if you noticed, but on the foundation there's this like plastic stuff hanging out from around the sill plate. I'll show you a little bit about that. So what's going on here is I have my sill plate in treated wood, and then I've got some, I don't remember what this is called. It's like this little foam thing that you're supposed to put under there to kind of help seal it. And I've got this plastic, I think this is 4 mil, and then underneath that I put a little bead of some kind of like super flexible silicone. You're supposed to use acoustical sealant from some of the research I did, but I have no idea. I've never done this before. So I couldn't find any, and when I did, it was really expensive and the lead time was too long, so I just did what I could and squished it down and put it on right away and squished it down with these bolts. So the point is here is that this plastic stuff, it wraps up around the outside and you tape it to the wall, and then when you seal the wall, it kind of creates a super, what they call it, a tight seal around the house to keep it sealed so no air gets in or out, except for the air that we want in or out. So when you do that, the thing you got to be careful with, from what I understand, is that if you seal the home, then you could have stagnant air in there. So you have to get a kind of a ventilation type system or an energy recovery system, ERV or HRV. There's two different types, I guess. One's for heat, and one's for energy. I don't know. Heat's energy, so it doesn't really make sense, the difference right now to me. So I decided to hire somebody to figure that all out because I don't know how to size the heater. The other thing, I don't want to have a propane tank around here, so I decided that I'm going to go electric. And you think electric heat, you think really expensive. So what I'm doing is going to be an electric heat pump, which they always have air conditioning too, but it takes the heat out of the air outside and then puts the heat into the house. And you think, how is there heat outside when it's like 30 degrees outside? But there's always heat, it's just a matter of how much. So I'm not going to go into that too deep because I'm not that smart. So yeah, I hired a guy to help figure that out, and this is the guy that's helping me out figure all this foam. And you can kind of see along the wall there the two foam things. You got the 4-inch thick is the yellow stuff, that's the polyisocyanates, and the 2-inch thick's the EPS. And then my plan is I'm going to put a drainage mat on here. That's my plan right now. We'll see later, a drainage mat is like this little dimpled, not fabric, but like plastic that goes along the bottom so that I can put some more of this stuff on top of that. So this fiber facing on the side of this, it's fiberglass facing, but it's got like other fibers I'm sure in there too. You don't want anything to get wet, because when this plastic goes down and around this whole inside of this thing to enclose this crawl space, it's going to trap air and moisture and that kind of stuff, and you don't want anything that's going to absorb moisture or promote any kind of growth of mold. And so this fiberboard, even though it's not regular fiberboard, it's fiberglass. Not board, it's the facing. Anyway, I guess you don't want to get it wet. So what I'm going to do is put that barrier, or the drainage mat, and then put a barrier similar to this. It's going to be 6 mil. That's what they require when you enclose an encapsulated crawl space. And then I'm going to put that stuff on top of that so that I can still use that to insulate the ground. Because I don't know if I showed you over there in my truck somewhere that way. There's a whole bunch more foam, and that's because I got it from some guy, some roofer that had to get rid of some of this stuff to make space for some other stuff he's getting. So this is all pretty much brand new. A lot of it's aged a while, but it's pretty much brand new. I got it for $5 a sheet, and if I had to buy this stuff at you can't get it at Home Depot, but if you bought 4 inches thick, my guess is it'd be somewhere around $50 a sheet. So that seemed like a really good deal to me, and this stuff's super insulating kind of thing, so I went for it. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with all this extra. I'd like to go back and get some more if I can, but I gotta unload this truck before I can do that. Anyway, so that's where we are. I'll take you inside here and show you a little bit of what the plan is. So this big hole in the wall is meant to be sort of a, what would you call it, we're in the mudroom where the mudroom will be right now, and this hole is a doorway to get to the main living area. And so this mudroom is supposed to be like a, I forget what they call it, a secondary space where you can let cold air in and out without getting it all through the rest of the house, because you have this secondary door. It's escaping me. Sometime I'll figure that out what it's called. But anyway, this door goes back into the main living space, and then along the other side, and then there's a kitchen over there, and it doesn't really matter if I point it all out right now. But here's those temporary braces I was talking about that you put on there, and then that weld plate right in the middle is something I got to weld down here. There's a weld plate on this big chunk of concrete, and it looks similar to this one over here where I already did the weld. See if I don't know if you can see this or not, but yeah, I did a weld along here and around the back side and then up at the top. So that's the permanent brace. These temporary ones got to come off, but based on the size of this wall, like drawing it on paper is different than seeing it in real life. This thing is huge. It's probably sticking up 20 feet from where my feet are right now. So that's really high, and I don't want to take a chance of it falling. All right. If you look at this other one, how low it's braced compared to the height of the wall, it's pretty low, and it doesn't like seem like it's shaking or it has a chance to fall, but I don't want to take any chances. So my plan is to leave those temporary braces on as long as I can. They're like $20-something a month, so it's not too bad. But we'll get there, and then you can see all these holes. So I had them cast all these threaded inserts in down here so I could put a ledger along here, which is what this is on the other side. It's already bolted on the other side to hang some joists on. So pretty straightforward, except for I didn't put all of them all in the right place. So these joists on the other side, some of them I had to move offset just a little bit to miss the bolts, because when I bolted down, those are in the way of some of the hangers. So that seemed like it wouldn't be a big deal until we started putting on this sheathing, or the subfloor as they call it. The very first piece we put on, it was a little bit crooked, so that was really painful. We started putting more on, and then when we came back to do the next row, we wanted to offset it, and it turns out that offsetting it puts the edge of the plywood, the OSB, on one of those pieces that's kind of that I had to offset on this side. The other side's got the right spacing. This side's got almost the right spacing on some of them and not quite on others. So since it lined up with the pieces that are kind of coming like this, it turned into a big problem, because the next piece we tried to put down didn't even fit. Like, it went over the whole next piece, and you got to split them, the next joist. So we had to rip that up, and that was not fun, because that construction adhesive dries pretty quick. So we ripped that up and kind of figured out another way to do it. The only thing is, I don't know if you can see the green lines back there. Whoops, it's focusing on the wrong stuff. The green lines back there are the joints in the OSB. And usually they're staggered halfway across the 4x8 sheet, but I had to do it this way because of how many. There's like 6 of those joists that were kind of offset on one side. I didn't want to follow one of those, because then I would run out of space to nail and glue once I got to the other side here, because they're kind of going like that. So now they're all offset by 16 inches, which is not that great. Another thing I did is when I designed it, I came up with 16-inch spacing for those. On this side though, the span is shorter, and I'm using the same joist. So what I decided to do is do 24-inch spacing, and what's going to happen is they're going to kind of like be spaced in here, not quite the same as these, but we'll figure it out when we get there. I think they should go in there pretty well. If I have to offset them a little bit, I will. I'm not sure on this side with the ledger bolts how that's going to work out. I'm hoping that it doesn't line right up with those bolts again, because otherwise it could turn into another nightmare with putting on the flooring, subfloor. anyway, this is my, actually the second one for today, but this is my video blog of how we're building this cabin. And we'll talk about a lot of the pains that we've been going through along the way.